bunch of questions, but I like throwing some fun ones before I, get started into the movie. And if someone has actually never seen anything that you've done before, what is the first thing you'd like them to watch and why?
Wow, what a question, Steve. Maybe I'd like them to watch my Squid Man in Pirates.
Okay.
Because it's one of the only films I've ever watched myself, because I'm a squid. You know what I mean? So what are you going to say? You hate my squid? Well, get over it. You know what I mean? Don't come to me with your squid problems. And also because I think it's a magnificent creature, and it looks sort of more glamorous and more impressive than I do. And also the films are brilliant. So maybe the squid.
The visual effects for that, for Davy Jones and everything, they still stand up when you watch them today. They were so well done on those films.
Yeah. The director, when he first saw the creature, when they've done a kind of half a scene or something, what he said to the guys was, get your acceptance speech ready. That was actually what he said. And they did. They won an Oscar. Incredible achievement. There were about 100 guys at, Industrial Light and Magic who contributed to that creature. And it's a stunning achievement.
I 100% agree with you. Did you know at an early age that you wanted to be an actor? When did was it a performance? How did you sort of realize this is what I want to do?
Well, when I was at grammar school, I went to a Catholic grammar school where you were largely educated by Catholic priests. And there was a Catholic priest called Father Richins. We used to call him Little Richins, obviously. And he was the drama priest. And I was tall and I had a reasonable memory. So I used to get leading roles, and I was tall and therefore didn't have to play girls, which was a bit of a result in those days. And anyway, I didn't realize, it wasn't like now where everybody knows you can be an actor and you can have a career, you can make money, or there was no precedent for that round our way, and nobody knew any actor, nobody knew about being an actor or anything of that kind. And I sort of it occurred to me, but I didn't do much about it. And then I met a girl who was the first girl who paid any kind of serious attention to me. At least I thought it was serious. I lasted a month. And in that month, she said you could be she was going to drama teacher college because her parents traditionally want you to have something to fall back on. And she suggested you could be an actor. She could have said astronaut, and I'd have given that a shot too.
I completely understand. When did you feel like you could just act and pay your rent? When did you feel like you had made that transition?
Wow, that you have to go forward a few years. I would think it was probably, I was an average mess as a young man in terms of having anywhere to live. I very rarely had anywhere regular to live. And I did a lot of, we used to live in squats where they'd bang the boards back up across the front door every day. You'd have to tear them off to get a night's sleep. It was not unusual. It was a regular thing. But I would think it was probably where I thought, oh, now I can really pay the rent. You mean like forever?
No, just like for like the next 6 months. Or the next month, I have money for a flat.
Well, I had that when I took a theater job, and you take a season. So yeah, I paid the rent. I paid the rent, when I was 20, probably 5 or 6 years. And then I got, a season in a theater, like in Liverpool or on a tour, and I could probably pay the rent for a while. But of course, I didn't pay the rent. I spent it in other ways.
You were probably in your 20s, and that's what you do.
That's what you do.
Yeah.
I was always a little behind on the rent.
Jumping into living, I read that this all sort of started because you met up with the guys and were having drinks.
We were having dinner at Stephen Woolley, the great English film producer's house, who's a great friend of mine and with whom I've made 2 other films. And in fact, I forgot that I was supposed to be having dinner, and I fell asleep on the sofa. And when Stephen rang me and said, "Where are you?" And I managed to get in a cab and get there, because I nearly stood up, the Nobel Prize winning world famous novelist Ishiguro, who has always encouraged me to call him Ish, but I've never been able to bring myself to do it. Anyway, we had dinner, and they just sit there. They're film nerds of the highest order. They sit there all night long challenging each other with film facts, and they largely to do with black and white British films between 1930 and 1960. And they'll say who designed that, and who played the detective at the end, and what other three parts did he play, and who was played the second lead in the, whatever, and who was the cinematographer on that. They do that all night. Then at the end, Ishiguro and his wife Laura went into a huddle, and they came out of the huddle and they said, "We know what your next film should be." And I said, "Well, when you're ready, let me know." And a couple of weeks later, Stephen rang me and said, "This is the plan." And it was a terrific plan, because Ishiguro was going to it was a daunting plan, because you're about to, if we could avoid the word remake, I would, but we can't, reimagine a famous film by one of the most famous filmmakers in the history of film, Kurosawa, and his film Ikiru. We were going to reimagine that into London, from Tokyo into London in 1953. But the good news was Ishiguro was going to be doing that. So I figured we were in good hands. And then we found Oliver Hermanus, because he made this terrific film called Moffie, Moffie, and he came on board and things started to rock.
I think the script for this is just so well done. I'm curious, what was your reaction reading the script? And like at any point before getting the script, were you like, I don't know if I want to reimagine this? But then when you read the script, you're like, oh, I want to reimagine this.
Well, no, I was always kind of, I don't know why, but I was, because it was Ishiguro, I was confident that we'd be okay. I did actually watch the original. I'd never seen it before, and I watched it. And I knew that it would be very different, because I'm a very different actor from the man who played the original, and the plans that they had visually were very different. So I wasn't anxious about it. But when I read the script, I was very, very happy, and I was very encouraged, because it was so beautifully put together, I just thank my lucky stars, really.
Was it in the script that you were going to be singing? And was that like a nervous thing for you?
Yeah, that's a nervous thing for me. There's that bit. There's a couple of bits on the schedule where you go, "Oh God, really? I really have to do that on top of everything else." And singing is not something. I mean, I can hold a tune, but I'm not. Once I get going, I'm okay. But the prospect of it was daunting, yeah. And the fact that you then, halfway through you have to break down, But actually, that turned out to be not, because it's like when you're at a funeral and everything is fine and you can hold it together the whole way through, and then they ask you to sing, and then they say everybody's going to sing "Hey Jude," and you get to the second line and you fall apart, because there's something about the singing that just unlocks all that and threatens all your restraint, and you start and you well up and you choke up, and it does, so it actually helped me with the emotional aspect of that particular scene.
I thought that scene was so beautiful in the movie, and your emotion in the scene really translated through the screen for me. Was that something that you did like multiple takes on, or did you guys sort of discuss beforehand, I'm going to be able to do this once or twice really good? And I'm just curious, because it's so much emotion.
Well, no, it's funny you should say that, because I suppose now when you say that, I think, yeah, why didn't we have that conversation? But we didn't have that conversation. I mean, and I did it, I don't know how many times I did it. Oliver would tell you, but I think it must have been 15 times.
Wow.
Oh yeah, I mean, if not more. And there were, from various angles, and, obviously, and all of that. And yeah, we really shot the hell out of that. And it was an averagely tough day. You knew you'd been to work.
I am curious. Like I said earlier, I am a big fan of your work. And I'm always curious about how actors prepare for, say, a big moment. So hypothetically speaking, you have a really big scene on a Monday. It's going to take a lot out of you. It's a tough scene. How do you typically like to prepare for that moment? Are you early on, breaking that thing down, or is it a week out? Could you sort of just, how do you like to get ready?
I like to get ready weeks. I mean, it depends on how long you get, but I would be ready weeks before shooting begins. I would have it annotated. I would have stresses put in there. which word I'm going to stress. I would sometimes make, if there's if there's an accent involved or a voice involved, I might do that on my phone. I might record that on my phone just to be sure the tone is right. But I will minutely study it, and then I will learn it backwards and sideways so that I can eventually arrive at a position where I can say it like it's never occurred to me before and I've never spoken it before. That's the gig. That's all she wrote, you know. The idea that rehearsal is the enemy of spontaneity is, it's not true. It's rehearsal and is the friend of so-called spontaneity. Because that is the job. The job is to say it over and over and over and over again until you can give the impression that you never said it before. And all of those things, you know, but that doesn't mean to say that I'm going to be imprisoned in those intonations or I'm going to deliver it in a certain way every single time. Not at all. It just means that I'm ready and open to any eventuality.
What do you think might surprise soon-to-be fans of the film Living about the making of the film?
That's another good question. They might be surprised to know that my suit was 70 years old. They might be surprised to know that if you wear a bowler hat and somebody dropped a brick on your head, you'd be fine.
Really?
They might be surprised to know that people thought smoking cigarettes was really good for your heart. That's how they sold them. They might be surprised to know that I had very few carbs throughout the shooting and virtually no sugar. They might be surprised to know that Aimee Lou Wood and I had great difficulty not laughing a lot of the time through some of the most tragic scenes, because she's irrepressible and incorrigible. She's a wonderful person and a terrific artist, and we had a great time, and that's not PR.
I believe I'm going to be out of time, so I just have to ask you, I am a big fan of Richard Curtis, and you guys have worked together a few times. Can you sort of talk about what you love about working with him and his writing?
Well, I love his writing because he can do that really rare thing, which is he can arrange for the whole world to laugh at the same time, which is, you know, it's not as much of that around as would at first appear to be the case. And also that he has the guts to deal with sentiment. He has the courage. A lot of people lack it, including critics. He has the guts to go ahead and to operate with a certain degree of sentimentality and to make films, fearlessly make films about how good people can be and how remarkable they can be, and not retreat into the easier thing of making films about how bad things can get. And that takes guts, because you're going to catch a lot of hell for that. Because there's a lot of people that equate that, you know, a lot of people who are too cool for school who are going to equate that with some other thing. He's not a manipulative person, he's a believer. And as a director, he's been always, I've worked with him, you know, twice now as a director. He's impeccable and is very, you know, can really help, which is not the case with all directors. And he's a sensational human being. Apart from that, you know, but no, he's a wonderful man, and I'm honored to have worked with him.
On that note, I want to say again, congratulations on Living. Thank you so much for giving me your time. I wish you nothing but the best.
Thank you so much.